All right, guys, raise your hand if you've never mudded or taped before. Hands up high. Junior has your hand.
That's gonna be a fun rod.
Okay.
So we're also mixing our mud over here, and they come in pre-packaged boxes. Here's the boxes that the mud comes in. So if you open it up, this is what it looks like. So Dylan's dumping his mud into the bucket, and then he's gonna add some water and mix it all up. And once he gets the certain consistency he's looking for, he'll be ready. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. In the construction world, we're working with a lot of expensive materials. We want to make sure we don't waste anything. You know, we want to use as much as we possibly can. He's the classroom rebel. So Cassandra's about to mix some mud. We got a little bit of...
Start that again. Wrong.
Amazing Isabel right here, #1 woman, you know, best in the classroom. No one like her. So we got our mud and we got our water in there, and she's gonna mix it all up. She's gonna start off slow. Can we borrow that real quick, Cassandra? So we're gonna see if we got the right consistency. So we're gonna scoop a little bit in there. So it's a little heavy, so I think we might add a little bit more water, just so it's a tiny bit more runny. We don't want this slopping right off, but it's still pretty sticky. Oh wow. Do you want to mix again, Cassandra? Or Isabel, I'm sorry. I'm staying in the hot seat today. So Dylan added a little bit of water. You know, we want to start off with small amounts because we don't want to get it too runny. It's a lot more runny now. We're going to go ahead and add a tiny bit more water, and this will probably be the final amount of water we add. It's kind of like cake batter. Well, nice and soupy. Just don't actually eat it though. It's the forbidden cake batter. So we're in station number 3 right now with the lovely Isabel and fine Emilio over here. Looks like an ox. So we went ahead and brought our mud inside our station. Now we're ready to put on our second coat. Isabel here is gonna fill up her mud pan, so she has mud with her. And Emilio is gonna do the same. So funny thing about this mud, it doesn't look like much, but it's actually relatively heavy. And as Isabel can confirm, after a few hours of just carrying this pan, her arms get kind of sore, right?
Yeah, but it's this one from the your shoulder.
That's even worse when it's overhead on the roof. So Isabel here is getting a nice amount of mud onto her knife. And what she's gonna do is she's gonna take it to the wall, she's gonna slide it down, spread as much as she can. Now she's gonna smooth it all out. And she'll do that a couple more times until it's a nice smooth surface. We don't see any abrasions. So this is our second coat, and now we move on to a wider knife so we can get more mud on there, because it actually makes a lot more of an even surface when you spread out the mud. Because if it was just a tiny amount, it's a little bit more noticeable when you come to the finished product. But using this 10-inch knife, we spread it out more, it's not as noticeable and a lot more even. You can get something that dries relatively quickly, but what we have actually takes, you know, at least a day, if not 2 days to dry. We've noticed that this morning there's actually a couple of wet spots in corners and seams. So not everything's completely dry after 24 hours. So we do sanding for our second coat. We want to make sure there's a nice, even, smooth surface before we put on more mud, so it all looks cosmetically pleasing. Yes, sir, let's go do it. I already have my knives inside the home, so now I'm just getting my sandpaper and our pole. So I'm gonna be using this to sand, hand sand. Then I'll use this for the ceiling because I don't want to be right under the hand sander because all of that debris is gonna fall right into my face. That way, with this nice and handy dandy stick, put it to the ceiling, I'm clear from the debris, won't get as dirty. Still get a little dirty, but not as much. Yeah, gonna make sure you have enough slack. Yeah, so we already got our first coat on there. We got a piece of tape that we mudded on. So the second coat, there's no more tape. We just put more mud on top. And you know, if you put a little bit too much, the mud kind of runs down to the bottom. So right now I got a pool of mud that's dried. So I want to make sure I take the time to really smooth it out. It's a lot of friction, so I'm jumping because the surface is really uneven. Throughout the day, you'll get better. That's a nice, cool part of doing something new. You kind of find your own groove. And, you know, after a couple hours of doing something new, you find out that, hey, I'm starting to get it a little bit more. It's starting to move quicker. So if it feels coarse at all, that means it needs to be sanded a little bit more. As you can see, there's a little bit of some ridges right here. You can see it's a little coarse. So I know I gotta sand that down. Also, if there's any lumps, anything sticking out, our goal is just to make sure that it's all flat and all smooth. Feels a lot smoother, there's no boogers sticking out. To make this a little bit more even, though I know I'm going to put mud on there and smooth it out really nicely, because we don't want any texture like this yet. On the windowsill, you can see there's a nice big glob right here. So again, we want to make sure everything's nice and smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and sand out this big old glob. After a little bit of elbow grease, nice and smooth now, like a baby's bottom. So I want to look for these edges right here, because on the sills it's really easy to get a lot of excess right over the edge. As you can see, there's a lip right there, so you want to pay close attention. We know what our goal is, make sure everything's nice and even. So go ahead and fill around. Just takes a little bit of elbow grease, you know, just a little work in there. But not too difficult, comes right off. You might get tired and need to take a little break, you know, if your arm gets sore. But other than that, this part of the process is not as tedious as the rest. The drywall, that was fun.